Are expecting to break that record of 89. And by the way, that could very well be our first 90-degree day of the year. And that would be well ahead of schedule. We'll dive deeper into how long this hotter than normal pattern sticks around.
Thank you so much. Tonight, the Orlando community is still mourning the loss of a 9-year-old girl, a TV news reporter, and a 38-year-old woman, all murdered, deputies say, by the same suspect. And tonight, those lives lost have been identified. Fox 4 News anchor Nadine Yanis spending many years reporting in Orlando, following this story for us since that news broke last night. Nadine, you personally knew one of the victims.
Yeah, Shari, it has been a tough Spectrum News reporter, 24-year-old Dylan Lyons, was an eager and bright intern at my old station, often shadowing me, reporting on the same streets in the same neighborhood where he was gunned down yesterday, chasing his own dreams. That, along with his photographer, Jesse Walden, who is now recovering in the hospital tonight. This while deputies also identified the 9-year-old girl who was shot and killed. And just into our newsroom within the last hour, body camera footage of the moment this suspect was arrested.
It's hot still. It's hot.
And so you hear him say, "This gun is still hot." That is the moment that detectives pulled the gun out of suspect 19-year-old Keith Moses' pocket. Still hot to the touch after the shootings yesterday. The body camera showing detectives taking down Moses after they say he shot 5 people and killed 3 all in one day. It all started, they say, with the morning murder of a 38-year-old Natasha Augustine, now identified 5 hours later. Here you go. 24-year-old Dylan Lyons, a Spectrum 13 reporter, along with his photographer Jesse Walden, in their car, were also shot. Deputies say that same suspect then ran into a nearby home, shooting a mother and killing her 9-year-old daughter. That daughter, now identified as Tiana Major, the mother still in the hospital, recovering tonight.
So he is currently in Orange County Jail. He's charged with first-degree murder of Miss Augustine. And so there are additional charges to file. I am 100% confident that we will charge him with homicide in the killing of Dylan Lyons and also of the 9-year-old girl, Tiana Major, and numerous other charges.
So that 19-year-old suspect did not show his face today, waiving his right to his first appearance in court. He will be held on no bond as more charges are pending. So coming up tonight at 6, we're going in depth on this body camera video that was just released out of Orlando. We're also learning more about the victims identified today, including that Spectrum 13 reporter, Dylan, who I knew, who also is a UCF graduate. He was engaged to be married, and an update from his photographer from inside the hospital where he's recovering tonight. We'll see you again, Shari, at 6.
Nadine, thank you for that very thorough update. I know that must be hard to report on. Well, back here in Southwest Florida, the man who walked out during his trial was back in court this morning. Thurbert Sweet appeared before a judge via Zoom, as you see here. 2 weeks ago, Sweet was in court for kidnapping charges. That's when he walked out of the Lee County Courthouse during a recess in his trial. Now, he was legally allowed to since he was free on bail, but he was later found guilty and convicted. He was located and arrested Friday in Manatee County. Sweet is being held without bond and is due back in court next month. Well, a man is receiving medical care after being run over by a car this morning. According to Fort Myers police, a man and a woman were fighting in that car. Then the man got out. Police tell us that's when the woman, Danielle Pittman, chased the man down and ran him over with that vehicle. Pittman was arrested and is now facing an aggravated assault charge. The victim was treated at a local hospital. Michelle?
New numbers out today show the economy grew at a rate of 2.7% between October and December last year. That's 0.2% lower than the government had predicted. It's also down from the economic growth rate earlier in the year. July through September was measured at 3.2%. Jobless claims fell last week, according to government numbers out today. 3,000 fewer people filed for benefits, bringing the weekly total to 192,000. The 4-week average for claims did increase a bit. Claims are still below the pre-pandemic average. When workers are laid off, severance pay usually comes with some restrictions. Not saying anything bad about the company is often one of them. But a new ruling from the National Labor Relations Board says employers can no longer buy silence through severance. This could change how severance packages are offered.
So I think that will definitely, cause employers to pull back on severance agreements and certainly maybe not offer them for as much money as they have in the past.
She says the only motivation for companies to offer severance now may be peace of mind that the employee is unlikely to sue them. But the new ruling now allows laid off workers to share any workplace issues with other employees and unions. Nursing homes are still dealing with staffing shortages that grew worse in the pandemic, and it's impacting access to care for our loved ones. A recent survey of 500 nursing home providers found more than 2/3 are worried their facility may have to close altogether because of staffing shortages. More than half say they're having to turn away new residents. And what this could mean for you or a family member is having to stay in the hospital longer while waiting for an opening.
Getting them into a nursing home where they can start their physical therapy and rehab, finish up the care they've started in the hospital so they can get home is really our focus.
He tells us one challenge for getting more workers is pay. Nursing homes rely on Medicaid to be reimbursed, and they say it doesn't pay enough to increase salaries as fast as hospitals, which rely more on private insurance. JobSite Indeed currently has postings for more than 130,000 job openings in nursing homes. The American Health Care Association and National Center for Assisted Living recently launched a new national campaign to get more people into these jobs. They're giving nursing homes resources to help with recruiting.
And one of the things that we've learned is the best recruitment is the actual staff who work there, and talking to families and friends, coworkers, or talking to prospective people who are applying about what it means to work there.
He says there are also opportunities to grow in that career that people may not realize, and that many of those who now run nursing homes started out there in different roles. There are new efforts to expand who can prescribe medications for a mental illness.
The ease and the convenience of going to one provider who can both do psychotherapy and it can identify and assess the need for medication.
How that change could work.
Still to come right here on Fox 4 News at 5 as the doors reopen at the Southwest Florida and Lee County Fair. New security measures are in place. What you need to know before you head out, that's coming up next. Katie?
And unfortunately, our drought conditions continue to worsen here across Southwest Florida. Notice now all of us in yellow as well as tan. We'll talk more about what this means in my 7-day forecast.
Winter storm stretching from coast to coast, dumping feet of snow in California and causing treacherous travel in the Northeast. The tail end of one storm system over New England could drop an additional 4 to 8 inches of snow through tomorrow evening. Also impacting travel too, 171 flights were canceled today in and out of Boston International. And on the West Coast in California, multiple rounds of heavy snowfall coupled with strong winds leading to blizzard conditions in the Sierra Nevada mountains. Meanwhile, below the snow line, lower elevations in Southern California could see flooding rainfall and very cold temperatures running 20 degrees below normal. It's hard to believe that all of that is going on across the country, but here in Southwest Florida, as we give you this live look from our Bayfront camera in Naples, things look absolutely gorgeous. But as we bring in Fox 4 certified meteorologist Katie Walls, we know, Katie, it's hot.
That's right. We have very hot temperatures. We have dry conditions continuing here across Southwest Florida, but we won't be affected by either of those systems because a strong ridge of high pressure is more or less protecting us and deflecting any system from getting anywhere close. So as that ridge of high pressure gets stronger, our temperatures will continue to climb. Tomorrow forecast to be even hotter than today. And even right now, if you're heading out, look at this. Immokalee LaBelle still reporting 95 degrees at this hour. Right now, Fort Myers reporting 84 degrees. Currently, Bonita Springs sitting at 83, 82 right now. Coming in for Naples, factor in that humidity, and that's how we calculate your feels like temperature, also known as your heat index. Right now, those heat indices running in the triple digits farther inland. Bonita Springs, Fort Myers feeling more like 87. Up in Arcadia, the heat index right now at 90. So again, high pressure is in control, and you can see how everything is kind of arcing around it. So that's why we will continue to stay high and dry. And unfortunately, the dry conditions leading to some burn concerns. Now, I want to point this out. First and foremost, we do not have official burn bans elsewhere. The only spot that always has a burn ban in effect for yard debris is in Sarasota County. But we are expecting more of us to go into burn bans here in the coming weeks as well as months, because this just in, our drought index is getting worse. Now critically dry across Hendry County. Notice also now DeSoto County no longer in blue. We are now drying out officially across DeSoto, Charlotte, and Sarasota. This was a bullseye, of course, for extreme rainfall from Ian, but now, because of how little rainfall we've seen so far this year, combined with exceptionally hot temperatures, we are now officially drying out in these spots and, of course, across the rest of Southwest Florida. So big concerns here as we continue to closely monitor it. And as for those hot temperatures, they're expected to continue into the start of March. This is a look at my Climate Prediction Center outlook. 8 to 14 days out. So again, that first week of March, this is what we're looking at, and the likelihood of abnormally hot conditions, that likelihood is high. Likewise, abnormally dry conditions expected to continue as well. So as we head into the evening, great news for outdoor plans, not great news though for our drought conditions. Quiet weather for those of you venturing out this evening. Tomorrow morning, again, could have some areas of patchy fog. Otherwise, tons of sunshine, even hotter temperatures forecast for the afternoon, as we could very well hit the first 90-degree day of the year in Fort Myers. Typically, that doesn't happen until April 17th. We're a little ahead of schedule, but as of right now, that 90-degree mark in my forecast for tomorrow. And over the weekend, not quite as toasty, but still above normal, mid to upper 80s on the way. Again, some areas of haze and fog to kick off your Saturday morning. Otherwise, beautiful conditions to get outside, perhaps to the Burrowing Owl Festival in Cape Coral down at Rotary Park. Okay, so over the weekend, sunny, hot, mid to upper 80s, and then notice a good chance for rain, just not in my 7-day forecast.
Nearly 1 in 5 adults live with a mental illness. Experts say since the pandemic, more people are using or seeking out prescription medication. Jesse Cohen looks at the new effort to expand access.
Looking at the current state of our country, experts say people are suffering with mental illnesses, and it's not simple to get medication. Nationwide, roughly 50% of psychiatrists don't take insurance, so there are major gaps in coverage.
This individual has to go through either a primary care physician who is or can manage that medication, or find a psychiatrist or psychiatric nurse practitioner.
Jin Lee with the Colorado Prescriptive Authority explains it can be a lengthy process for patients to get psychotropic medication. So what if they could get prescribed by the psychologist they are already seeing for therapy? That's the goal of recent legislation brought forward in Colorado this year.
The ease and the convenience of going to one provider who can both do psychotherapy and who can identify and assess the need for medication.
New Mexico and Louisiana are the first two states that sort of implemented this in the beginning. And statistically speaking, ever since that prescribing psychologist has been implemented in those states, the suicide rate has decreased by 5 to 7%.
The Department of Defense, New Mexico, Louisiana, Illinois, Iowa, and Idaho have all granted psychologists the right to prescribe. Dr. Beth Romreimer helped make this happen in Illinois back in 2014.
So as of today, we have 14 licensed prescribing psychologists in Illinois, and we have over 150 psychologists who are engaged in training. The access to care will be increased, as in Illinois, it's going to be increased 100%. And I see that being increased throughout the country.
So as the president of the Illinois Association of Prescribing Psychologists, Romreimer is helping medical professionals make this a reality in other states. Lee is at the forefront of the work happening in Colorado.
Psychologists around the country are eager to be engaged in the training so that they could treat their patients in this effective way.
Opponents are against psychologists prescribing medication for a few reasons. One is not having the proper medical background, but experts say the process is time-consuming and far from easy to obtain.
So the rigorous process is what you have to be a doctoral level psychologist first to begin with. So that's 10 to 12 years of training and education to begin with. And then you have to go back to school for 2 full years of a master's degree in clinical psychopharmacology.
Every state is slightly different, but overall the process has the same structure. In Colorado, the training requirements include a doctoral degree, a postdoctoral master's degree in clinical psychopharmacology, a national board exam, a year of working under a licensed prescriber, and then 2 years of having a conditional prescription certificate in which they would only prescribe under the supervision of a consulting physician.
So up until this moment, we're talking about at least 5, if not 6 years of process on top of doctorate degree.
Nearly a dozen other states have considered expanding the prescription authority of psychologists, but legislative changes have not happened since 2017. Colorado could be the next up. Jesse Cohen, Scripps News, Denver.
And from Denver to right here in Southwest Florida, still to come right here in Fox 4 News at 5. The season is typically dry for Southwest Florida, but Collier County is the driest county in the state. This is concerning how that could impact the potential for fires, Katie.
That's right. Extreme temperatures not helping the cause. Check this out. Record-setting heat officially in Fort Myers. We tied that record of 89. Tomorrow, expected to be even hotter. We'll take a closer look next.
So what are you doing this weekend? Want to let you know the doors are officially open at the Southwest Florida Lee County Fair. But we've got to look at how security is changing this year. What you need to know coming up.
Live from Southwest Florida, you're watching Fox 4 News at 5.
Almost 100 years, not quite yet though. The 99th annual Southwest Florida and Lee County Fair is back. And if you're looking for a reason to attend, look no further because tonight the cost to get inside is only $1. So let's get out live to Fox 4's Colton Chavez, who joins us from the entrance. You can't beat $1, Colton.
Shari, the way I look at it, it's just more money to spend on things like funnel cake or the games inside that I can't seem to ever win. Now the gates actually just opened about 4 o'clock. People have kind of been steadily making their way through, but there are some security changes. As Shari said, I wanted to get out in front of you in case you do decide to show up. Now, the president of the Lee County Fair Association, Mike Peak, he tells me that this year attendees can only bring in clear bags inside, but small wallets about 6 by 6 will still be accepted. Now, if you do not have a clear bag, the fair will be handing out clear freezer bags to you at no cost. Now, organizers say they do not allow backpacks, and diaper bags will actually be checked but allowed inside. Now, once inside, Peak says the fair has all of the vendors, entertainment, and rides that families, he says, come here for. Now, earlier today, organizers of the fair cut the official ribbon, promising crowds another great year.
We want to be part of Lee County Strong. This fair is for Lee County in the area. We're just so happy that we can have it, that we didn't lose all of our facilities where we couldn't.
They say the goal of the fair every year is to provide safe, family-oriented fun. Even with all of this fun, though, Shari, security is still a serious conversation. If you've been following Fox 4's reporting, it's now been 15 days since that tragic incident, Shari, where somebody was shot and killed at the DeSoto County Fair. And if you remember my reporting from last year here at the Lee County Fair, the sheriff's office actually had to go inside and remove a registered sex offender from one of these game tents. So coming up on Fox 4 News at 6 o'clock, I'm bringing all of these talking points to fair leaders to see what they're doing about it, Shardy, but that'll be coming up at the top of the hour. Live at the Lee County Fairgrounds, Colton Chavez, Fox 4.
Answers about safety and fun. Thank you so much, Colton. And we are continuing to keep an eye on the weekend. Spring training games officially start on Saturday in Fort Myers for both the Twins and the Red Sox. And the first normal spring training in 4 years is most welcome. You know that. Today, the Fort Myers Chamber of Commerce hosted business leaders at the Twins' facilities. And Fox 4 evening anchor Chris Earl spent the afternoon as we're down to just 2 days until the Grapefruit League really starts up. Chris, as the optimism is there for area businesses as much as for the teams and the fans.
Shari, that definitely is the sense. Starting on Saturday, the Twins will open up their home schedule against Tampa. And then on Sunday, the Red Sox will play their first home game for the spring season, also against Tampa. The Chamber of Commerce, along with executives from the Twins and Red Sox, talked about the economic engine that is spring training in Lee County. The Chamber told businesses that $70 million will get spent during a normal spring training, but that has not happened for a few years. The pandemic ended 2020 early. You had limited fans in 2021. And then the lockout last year cut spring training short on the back end. But the Twins have called Lee County home since 1991 with fans from at least 5 states who make the trek here to escape the cold.
Fans are everywhere, and they come down here to Southwest Florida. They spend a lot of time in the winter. They love it down here. They're connected to this community. So for us to have a normal spring training, go into a regular season with a really exciting team, it's a great feeling all around.
Also, the Red Sox have been in Lee County since '93. A executive with the team talked about how some of the team's players and staff do have homes and properties in Southwest Florida as they were in the final week of the regular season, still watching the impact of Hurricane Ian. But today, the work of spring training was exactly that. It was work under those temperatures, pushing up towards 90 degrees, the non-glamorous tasks of sharpening the skills, and also even for the stadium crew, power washing the seats in the sunshine. All of that work just to be ready for Saturday's home opener. Again, this is what you see. That was the only time you could even catch a break out there today, Shari, but Twins in Tampa, Saturday, 1 p.m.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much, Chris. All right, continuing to keep an eye on your weekend and our environment. I'm inviting you to take a look at your screen right now because the Department of Health in Collier County issued new health alerts for the presence of red tide blooms in the following areas. So those include Barefoot Beach State Preserve, Vanderbilt Beach, Seagate, Naples Pier, Keewaydin Island, and Doctors Pass. and the existing alert for Marco Island Beach remains in effect. There are reports of dead fish and respiratory irritation at Loudermilk Park and the Naples Pier. I saw some of you guys talking about this on social media. It's been weeks since we've seen any decent rainfall here in Southwest Florida, as Katie just reminded us. And while it's typically dry this time of year, Collier County is the driest county in the state right now. And with that lack of the rainfall, of course, fire danger continues to build. Fox 4 meteorologist and firefighter Andrew Shipley spoke to officials today about conditions in the county, and he joins us live from the Greater Naples Fire District. Good evening.
Yeah, that's right, Shari. And Collier County is dry. In fact, Naples Airport hasn't received rain the entire month of February, and it doesn't look promising to receive rain the rest of the month, and that hasn't happened since 1949. Now, fire officials are telling me that with the drought worsening, they are beginning internal discussions as to the next steps in implementing burn bans, but have yet to pull the trigger. Now, I did speak to a fire chief, Nolan Sapp, with the Greater Naples Fire Department today. Now, Chief Tapp does say that the department uses the Keach-Bryant Drought Index, which estimates the amount of moisture in the top 8 soil to put a ban in or not. Now, once that index reaches about 600, those decisions are made. Now, Collier County's index is averaging about 585 as of today, or critically dry. Those bans could come as early as next week if this dry spell continues.
We haven't received enough rain to measure in a spoon, so it's definitely dry, that's for sure. And again, the medians and the smaller incidents are occurring right now is just the onset of what's to come.
Now, I did reach out to Collier County to see what this means, and again, they haven't had those discussions yet to pull the trigger, but they did give me this statement, and it reads, emergency management, forestry, and local fire chiefs are closely monitoring conditions. We work with our partner agencies while monitoring
Lost Andrew there, but as you can see, the rest of the statement here, it goes on to say we will work with our partner agencies while monitoring certain indicators, ensuring our statutory requirements are met. They go on to say we'll make those recommendations if and when needed. Now, Andrew's going to be back here on Fox 4 News at 6 for this very important story, and you're going to hear more from Chief Sapp about the conditions firefighters are dealing with in Collier County. That spoon analogy really putting things into perspective for us. All right, well, for the first time in 3.5 years, Florida is set to execute a death row inmate tonight. Donald Dilbeck was already serving a life sentence for killing a Lee County deputy when in 1990 he escaped from his prison detail and killed a woman in Tallahassee. Her name was Faye Van. Governor Ron DeSantis signed Dilbeck's death warrant last month, paving the way for the 59-year-old inmate's death by lethal injection tonight. This is the 100th execution in our state since the U.S. Supreme Court reinstated the death penalty back in 1976. Michelle?
Gym memberships are lower in the Black community. More wellness centers and gyms owned by people of color are now opening to address this. Thomas Hoppe shows us the impact they're having when it comes to overall health.
No matter which city you go to, there's an issue of accessibility to certain lifestyles when it comes to minority communities.
I grew up on the west side of Detroit, and what our healthy foods were Subway, processed foods.
I don't think we were privy to all of the benefits that come with living a better lifestyle. That includes fitness and how it prolongs longevity.
Whether it's a lack of access to food, a pharmacy, or hospital, these are all considered health issues.
COVID slowed everything down. When you see so much death and it happens just like that, you start to appreciate life a little bit more and start to take care of yourself a little bit more. The way to protect yourself during COVID was to be in great shape.
But there's another growing issue that Black business owners are trying to solve, and that's the access to centers dedicated to fitness, wellness, and health. One of the major health issues in the Black community is obesity. 38% of men over the age of 20 are obese, and 55% of women over the age of 20 are obese. And experts say accessibility to health centers can be part of the issue. Health, fitness, and wellness center memberships are low among the Black community. Studies report that only 12.3% of health club members in the country are Black, compared to 66% that are white.
I really didn't get access to a gym until I got to high school.
When I got into yoga, I was the only Black person in the classroom often. It wasn't until I started venturing further out into the areas, getting interested in yoga and meditation, where I had to go to Birmingham, I had to go to Novi, I had to go to Rochester in order to get these things.
Our people really suffer due to our eating habits.
How things changed?
I think things are changing for the better. We are getting more representation out there.
In these communities, a lot of gyms have closed down, like this one. This is why Black business owners decided to create their own wellness and fitness centers in the very community they grew up in to involve more people of color.
I'm Jamel Randall, owner of the Trap Yoga and Massage Studio. Just last week, I had a lady come to the class. I had never seen her before. It was a Black lady.
You can leave the arms by your side or take them above your head.
She's like, it just feels good to do yoga with Black people. And so it's a different vibration when you see someone that looks like you working on themselves. It's inspiring and it's promising for the future as well.
Here's the game plan. We're going to do front raise here.
My name is Clarence Gleaton. We need to see other people like us working out as well.
2, 1, switch. That's right, we're still in it.
I think the more we're out here, the more we can affect some type of change.
But it's more than just physical health. Mental health plays a crucial role in the Black community. 16% of the Black population reported having a mental illness in the last year.
All day, I come across people that struggle with their mental health. And I know one of the things that helped me, even when I was serving in the military, was fitness.
Women are phenomenal. Let's go.
Well, representation is everything. I suffer with anxiety and depression. I've been at the bottom and I know what it feels like to feel hopeless. And if I had allowed those things to take me away in my darkest, I wouldn't be here now.
Wellness centers can be a way to encourage those in their community to use fitness as an outlet for mental health, because the Mental Health Foundation says exercise can lower depression by 30%.
We're going to change the narrative in the city of Detroit, and it starts with us.
Thomas Hoppo, Scripps News, Detroit.
Thomas, thank you for that report. Water use is getting new attention as drought conditions continue.
If we don't all adapt and reduce our water demands collectively, we're going to end up in a situation where demand is going to exceed supply.
The water conservation efforts that could be a model for the country. Concerns are growing about water shortages in our country. Scientists say everyone should be watching what's happening with the shrinking Colorado River. Elizabeth Ruiz shows us one successful water conservation effort that could now be a model for more states.
Water conservation experts say Las Vegas has been cutting water usage the past 2 decades by targeting grass. They've been replacing it with rocks, desert plants, and artificial turf like this, saving billions of gallons of water.
Looking at Lake Mead, it's really evident just how much the lake has declined over the past 20 years with the white bathtub ring that you can see along the shoreline.
Southern Nevada Water Authority's Bronson Mack says 40 million people depend on water from the Colorado River.
If we don't all adapt and reduce our water demands collectively, we're going to end up in a situation where demand is going to exceed supply.
What I wanted to show you was...
Hydrologist David Creamer at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas says Lake Mead, which is fed by the Colorado River, is only about 100 feet above what is called dead pool.
What happens is if the lake goes down to a dead pool level, 950 feet above sea level, no more water can go through Hoover Dam and go downstream to California to the crops and the fields that are located there, and that would be a pretty tremendous impact not only for the Southwest but for the entire United States.
The quickest solution, he says, is water conservation by incentivizing water savings.
This used to be all grass all throughout here.
Neighborhoods all over southern Nevada have been ripping up grass for cash, replacing it with rocks, artificial turf, and desert plants.
Nevada passed a law about 1.5 years ago that requires all commercial, and that would include homeowners associations, to remove all grass that is what they call non-functional. So if you can't play on it, it has to come out.
Southern Nevada Water Authority says it pays property owners $3 a square foot to replace that grass with water-efficient landscaping.
We have removed more than 200 million square feet of grass and collectively saved more than 170 billion gallons of water simply by taking out grass that nobody is using.
It's part of a series of incentive programs Bronson says the Las Vegas area implemented in the early 2000s out of necessity.
Providing those financial incentives definitely has been a key to our conservation success.
Now, the rest of the Southwest is looking to Southern Nevada as a national model in conservation efforts.
30 cities throughout the Colorado River Basin in nearly every state of the Colorado River Basin signed on to a conservation memorandum of understanding, all agreeing to implement best practices when it comes to water conservation.
Bronson says water conservation isn't a one-size-fits-all, but collaboration between communities will help as we navigate the future of limited water supply. Elizabeth Ruiz, Scripps News, Las Vegas.
All right, Elizabeth, thank you for that report. Well, more than half of states have public schools with unsafe levels of lead in their drinking water. That's according to a new report from a group of environmental researchers. Lead exposure can impact the brain, and some studies have even linked it to a lower IQ. The study's authors are urging state and federal lawmakers to address lead levels in schools.
And welcome back to the Fox 4 Weather Center. We continue to watch a beautiful evening unfold. Of course, temperatures a bit on the toasty side. In Fort Myers, for example, we set a new record, and today marked the hottest day so far of 2023. Live look right now across beautiful Pine Island Sound from the Tarpon Lodge. Picture perfect with high pressure in control, not seeing anything in the way of cloud cover as a strong ridge of high pressure continues to strengthen. Now, with that come hot temperatures. So Immokalee still 91, 92 in LaBelle just shy of 6 p.m. Meanwhile, 84 currently in Fort Myers after dropping down from 89, currently 83 degrees coming in for Bonita Springs. As we factor in that humidity, it is still feeling more like the upper 90s farther inland. Right now, Golden Gate, that heat index still sitting at 90 degrees. Bonita Springs and Fort Myers still feeling quite toasty, like 87. These are temperatures more typical of, say, May, certainly not of the latter part of February. But for those of you heading out this evening, mostly clear skies expected. Your temperatures staying on the warm side, dropping from the lower 80s into the mid 70s by 10 and 11 o'clock. As for today, yes, record-setting temperatures. We tied the record set last year and also in 1962, 89 degrees. 10 degrees above average. Typically, we should start off at 58 and climb to 79, but instead a full 10 degrees above normal this morning, as well as we started off at 68 degrees. Tomorrow, expected to be even hotter. As of right now, we're calling for highs around 90 in Fort Myers. That would mark the first 90-degree day of the year. Typically, that does not occur until around April 17th. And then over the weekend, not quite as hot, though still well above average. At least records aren't in jeopardy the next couple of days. Mid to upper 80s expected for your Sunday and Saturday respectively, and then heading into the start of next week, mid 80s on the way. So this ridge of high pressure will continue to keep us high and dry the next several days, really through the next week or so. Foggy spots will be my biggest concern tomorrow morning. Otherwise, it's the heat, it's the humidity tomorrow afternoon. So please pay attention to that, especially with those heat indices, which will be feeling more like the mid to upper 90s for tomorrow afternoon. If you have outdoor plans, fantastic weather. Partly cloudy skies expected for the evening. Some cumulus clouds developing with a bit of a sea breeze, but otherwise rainfall not in the mix looking ahead to the weekend. Lots of sunshine, however, on the way. Just don't forget to stay hydrated and don't forget that sunscreen. So mid to upper 80s over the weekend, staying in the mid 80s into next week. Morning temperatures running in the mid 60s as we head through the weekend into next week. And again, as of now, a good soaking rain, not in my 7-day forecast and really not in the foreseeable future.
U.S. Census data shows entrepreneurship among Black Americans is booming. Experts point to recent government investment as a big reason. But as Vanessa Mashanya explains, those same experts say it will take more than that to keep those numbers up.
When you walk into your favorite coffee shop, a sense of home comes with your daily brew of choice.
When I started this, I was a freshman in college. I always wanted a coffee shop. Yeah, me and my mom, and she has a hair salon. So she was kind of looking to venture out to like another business.
For Haywan Casa and her family-owned business, Endless Grind Coffee, home is at the very core of what happens behind the counter. Using her family's Ethiopian cultural knowledge to roast and to serve coffee to her neighbors.
First, it was like survival mode of how do we even run this place? But the passion was there. We all wanted to do it. And so fast forward 5 years, we actually know what we're doing.
5 years is an astounding accomplishment for any business, especially when you factor in the pandemic, when Haywan says there were only $25 a day coming in for months. That is until a community push to support Black businesses turned the tides on what could have been the final blow to her family's dream.
Literally everything turned around for us, like in that moment.
Investment for the Casa family made all the difference, and data shows that's been the case across the country. In 2020, research from the University of California, Santa Cruz reported that 41% of Black businesses closed during the pandemic, compared to 17% of white businesses. However, after pandemic stimulus checks went out, a review of census data from University of California, Santa Cruz professor Robert Fairley reveals that the amount of Black business owners was 28% more in Q3 of 2021 than it was before the pandemic, the highest of any racial demographic.
96% of Black-owned businesses are single-member LLCs and sole proprietorships. That makes them weak. They're still undercapitalized, and they're still in low barrier to entry opportunities.
Jice Johnson is the founder of the Black Business Initiative in Colorado.
The Black Business Initiative is an economic development organization that works with Black-owned businesses to help close the wealth equity gap.
While the post-pandemic numbers are promising, she says a lot of the problems Black businesses faced well before the pandemic are still present, like a lack of employees and a lack of collateral.
So I'll take one of them as an example, which is collateral. So understanding that before I lend you money, I want to know that you own something that I can collect against. Sounds reasonable, like okay, except for the Black community doesn't own homes. Why don't the people in the Black community own a home? Well, now you would get down to all the way back to systemic redlining.
Jice says what we saw accomplished with stimulus money proves what kind of a difference investment into people who have been historically underinvested in can make.
I think it needs to be a two-pronged approach. I absolutely think there needs to be government investment, but I also think that there needs to be private investment. We often look at investment from a charitable perspective, which is wildly frustrating. And while there's a case to be made for charitable investment, there's also the case to be made for procurement. If companies want to move away from virtue signaling, they can really be intentional to work with organizations like myself and others that are intentional about how to create policies that can help bridge those gaps.
That is exactly what the Casa family hopes the next step is for Endless Grind Coffee, to become a supplier for offices or other businesses. But it takes those businesses to believe in their product.
Yeah, I guess that's what investment would look like for us, is just, and word of mouth, you know what I mean? Is spread the word, tell people about us. I feel like when people come in here, they love us. So the hardest thing for us and the biggest hurdle that we always have to jump is just trying to get people in here and getting our name out there.
Business is hard for everyone. But these experts and business owners say the right investment coming from the right place can be the make or break opportunity that can keep American dreams alive. Vanessa Mashanya, Scripps News, Aurora, Colorado.
Vanessa, thank you so much for that report. Well, that's going to do it for us today. I'm Michelle London. Fox 4 News at 6 is next.
Breaking tonight at 6. Is there something in the water in Charlotte County? What officials say they are doing now that a man may have become infected with an amoeba via tap water.
That's what the Lee County Fair says it's doing to address safety concerns. We're taking these concerns directly to organizers as people flock to the fairgrounds.
Get on your face. Get on your face.
And a terrifying scene in Orlando involving two journalists, a mother and her child. Tonight, we have context and updates from Pine Hills about a story that's sending shockwaves across the nation.
Live from Fox 4, this is breaking news.
Thank you for joining us tonight for Fox 4 News at 6. I'm Chris Earl.
And I'm Nadine Yanis. At this hour, we are trying to find out whether there is a public health concern in Charlotte County.
Late this afternoon, the CDC confirmed to Fox 4 that a Florida resident has died from an infection by an extremely rare amoeba. That statement came a couple of hours after the Charlotte County Department of Health issued a news release warning that someone had been infected, possibly when their sinus was exposed to tap water.
Yeah, Fox 4's Caitlin Knapp has been trying to fill in the gaps all afternoon as we try to answer whether residents should be concerned if their tap water or if this is just an isolated incident here.
And Caitlin, so far it's been difficult to get anyone to walk us through what they're doing to watch out for our viewers tonight.
Well, Nadine, Chris, we just wanted to know if public water treatment facilities normally prevent the presence of this amoeba. So we asked the Charlotte County spokesperson that question, but he insisted the Department of Health was the only entity who would comment, even though health officials don't run the county water system. Now, here's what the health officer for Charlotte County had to say about the investigation into the Naegleria fowleri case.
We're working on right now is a good investigation so that we can identify a point source. But we saw an opportunity to lean forward in being responsible and just kind of helping educate the community on this piece of it at the very least.
Right after this, I asked the Charlotte County patient who was concerned. And that's when he told us to send him any further questions, and he left the interview. Now, the amoeba is typically found in freshwater rivers and lakes, though it can be found in tap water. An infection happens only through the nose. While the CDC did not confirm the location of the person who died, the agency did say this person rinsed their sinuses daily with unboiled tap water. Now, new since my last report at 5, we did get a hold of the Charlotte County Public Utilities Director, John Elias. When we asked him if the water treatment systems can filter out an amoeba, he referred us to another person in the department who is better suited to answer this question. We're still waiting to hear back tonight, and we'll update you in the next half hour. Live in the newsroom, Caitlin Knapp, Fox 4.
Thank you so much for that update, Caitlin. The Lee County Fair is back in town, and tonight Fox 4 is focusing on security concerns.
Yeah, Colton Chavez is at the fairgrounds addressing these concerns tonight, only weeks after Fox 4 reported on a fatal shooting that happened at the DeSoto County Fairgrounds.
And today, Colton spent the day for Lee County asking fair leaders what they're doing differently for this year. So, Colton, what did they tell you?
Well, Chris, along with that tragic incident in DeSoto County, if you remember from my reporting last year, the Lee County Sheriff's Office actually had to come inside the fair and remove a registered sex offender from one of the game tents. So today I had a deeper conversation with fair organizers, and they say it all starts right here at the gates. As crowds roll in for opening night at the Lee County Fair, security. A priority for organizers after a shooting left one person dead at the DeSoto County Fair just a few weeks ago.
We are continuing with our safety protocols that we have.
Protocols that Lee County Fair Association President Mike Peak says are being improved, like adding a clear bag policy on top of security and metal detectors.
It prevents somebody from bringing something in that shouldn't be on grounds. It could be a danger.
Dangers such as weapons being kept off the midway, including those working the gaming booths, where last year Lee County Sheriff's deputies removed registered sex offender James Tennant, whose undetected sex offender charges was working under a false name as a game attendant inside the fair. Can someone like James Tennant slip under the radar again like they would this year?
Well, you know, if they had a false ID and such, if it was good enough to get through the computer checks and everything, well, sure.
Peak says James Tennant joined the fair after opening day, and before a background check could be completed, was recognized and removed by authorities.
We're strictly making sure the policy is followed, that none of workers come on and start working before they've gone through that protocol.
That protocol, Peak says, includes
all their employees are also screened by us through our computer checks.
Last year, the president of Reithofer Shows, Richard Reithofer, told me they wanted to also increase the work requirements.
We also have to ask from now on, not only their ID, but we want to ask for their physical Social Security card.
Now, I asked Peak if the company has started putting those implementations into the process here at the Lee County Fairgrounds, and he actually told me right now he can't comment on the policy of that company. But he did say, as far as the Lee County Fairgrounds, they are checking both IDs and social security numbers for all of their employees. Live from the Lee County Fair, Colton Chavez, Fox 4.
And we'll get to some of the spring training previews. I was out there at the Twins facilities today. My goodness, it was hot.
It was so
I know
hot.
it hit that record, but it looks so great there when you see the Tarpon Lodge.
Yeah, let's just take in the views and not so much feel the heat out there as we bring in certified meteorologist Katie Walls. Katie, you told us earlier in the week every day it was going to be a little bit hotter, and tomorrow even hotter than that.
That's right. This was our forecast. We forecast to tie that record of 89, and sure enough, we did. And by the way, also last year, we hit 89 degrees on this day, and then also that record back in 1962. Tomorrow, expected to be even toastier. Right now, I'm forecasting that high of 90. That would break the standing record at 89 for tomorrow. Also, it would be our first 90-degree day of the year. And typically, we don't see our first 90-degree day of the year until mid-April, so definitely a bit ahead of schedule. Then over the weekend, not quite as hot, but still well above that normal of 79. Mid to upper 80s expected over the weekend into the start of next week. But for those of you heading out this evening, maybe to catch that beautiful sunset here in the next half hour, picture perfect, hot temperatures, mid 70s though by 10 to 11 o'clock. Coming up, we'll talk more about the heat that's on the way and the dry conditions that continue to get worse across Southwest Florida.
All right, Katie, thank you. Well, the kidnapper who walked out of a Lee County courtroom in the middle of his trial was back before a judge today after being arrested again. This time, Thurbert Sweet was in the courtroom via Zoom. A few weeks ago, Sweet was on trial for kidnapping charges when the court says that he decided to walk out of the Lee County courthouse during recess. Now, legally, he was allowed to at that moment because he was out on bond. But once he was found guilty that day, there was a warrant for his arrest. He was arrested again in Manatee County. So the court now says to make sure Sweet isn't able to walk out of court again, he is being held without bond. Sweet is scheduled back in court on March 26th. Also tonight, Fort Myers detectives are wanting to know why they say a woman purposely hit a man with her car at the library early this morning.
Fox 4's Brianna Brownlee spent the day learning exactly what police say led up to this situation. Bree.
Chris and Nadine, when I was speaking with Fort Myers police, they told me that this all started because of a fight. Now, when we've been out here today, people were telling me that this morning they saw a car coming and driving down this walkway, and you can still see signs from what happened early this morning. Now, when I was speaking with people in the area, they were telling me that they do feel like something like this does not surprise them.
15 cop cars in one place is pretty alarming.
An alarming scene for Andrew Darden, who was the lead kava tender at Kava Bar. He says he was walking back to work just before 2 o'clock Thursday morning, and he saw the Fort Myers Public Library swarming with police after a man was hit.
Another employee of mine said that she was walking this morning and stepped in blood.
The day after the crash, blood stains still on the pavement and scuff marks on the wall, appearing to be from a crash that landed a man in the hospital.
Honestly, it was not super surprised.
Fort Myers police telling me the situation started with a pair arguing in the car. And when things escalated, the male victim got out and the driver chased him. I went through the recent LCSO bookings and discovered it was 31-year-old Danielle Pittman, who was in custody for aggravated battery with a deadly weapon.
Working here, being downtown, being a part of this community, it's a beautiful place, but I do see a lot of crazy things.
And as someone who cherishes downtown so much, Andrew is hoping for a change.
I think in general, I down here have to call the cops most nights, honestly, and I wish that the city would just put more focus on helping the citizens that are down here.
Now, the last update Fort Myers police was able to give me was that the victim was still in the hospital and he was off of a trauma alert. Now, as for Danielle, I was checking her court documents, and it appears she was supposed to be in court for a next hearing on March 27th. Live from downtown, Brianna Brownlee, Fox 4.
All right, Bree, thank you. Well, new tonight, the service for the former police chief here in Fort Myers has now been announced.
And next week, Fort Myers police will hold a ceremony to remember the life of Derek Diggs. The memorial for the chief will be at the McGregor Baptist Church on Colonial Boulevard Friday, March 3rd at 10 a.m. The former police chief will be laid to rest tomorrow in his hometown of Toledo, Ohio. Chief Derek Diggs was 67.
Hot conditions and very little in the way of rainfall. Unfortunately, we are now officially critically dry across Collier and Hendry counties. Coming up, we'll talk more about how this could affect us in the weeks and months ahead.
Also, it's almost time to hear the cracks of those bats in Southwest Florida.
And economic leaders here in Lee County say that they're very excited to have a normal spring training back, as it does bring in about $70 million when it's normal. As the chamber held a luncheon today at the Twins complex to welcome the return of normalcy. Part of that conversation still ahead.
And the deadly Wednesday shooting rampage in the Orlando area has now left a child, a woman, and a TV reporter dead. We have new details on these victims, along with the new video showing the moments deputies took down the suspect.
Coming up in today's Your Healthy Family, I'm taking a closer look at mental health care in minority communities, specifically in young people. The concerning numbers in a new report that a local clinician says can't be ignored.
Welcome to the start of spring training. Well, almost the real spring training. After more than a week of workouts, the actual Grapefruit League games will start on Saturday. The Minnesota Twins are hosting the Tampa Rays at Hammond Stadium, with the Boston Red Sox starting on Sunday at JetBlue Park, also against Tampa. For the first time since 2019, tens of thousands of fans are coming, with an economic impact of about $70 million, according to the Fort Myers Chamber of Commerce. That's for a normal spring training season. But with the pandemic in 2020 and 2021, and also the lockout last year cutting spring training short, normal is returning. That's what the chamber talked about today with business owners. One question was about hotel space 5 months after Hurricane Ian, for the fans from the Midwest following the Twins, as well as those New England fans who love their Red Sox.
Right after the storm into even January, that certainly was a concern. As we now go into spring training and we're looking past spring into the summertime, we're hearing that the hotels are opening up, that they're really hungry for the business that typically comes in here, both the leisure tourism and the sports tourism that we bring in.
The very real work of getting ready for Saturday also filled Hammond Stadium, as well as the adjacent training fields. Plenty of players working out. Just a handful of fans watching from the concourse and the walkways. The Twins talked about their passionate fan base back at 5, but we also see all those Red Sox hats all over Southwest Florida with their intense following.
The members of our organization who are hunkering down at JetBlue Park in some cases to try to stay safe from the storm if they couldn't be in their homes, and just keeping in touch with them and seeing it through their eyes, and again knowing what that feels like to be away from your home and not know if you're going to see it again.
We'll leave you with this image to show you what it's like on a hot day like this. This was the only cool down I could get, being next to the power washer on the seats that were slow cooking in the relentless heat of this Thursday. For days like this, definitely hydrate, even as much as watching out for foul balls.
Oh, I felt the heat of those seats, Chris. Thank you. Well, the top names for the name of a new Lehigh Acres Middle School have now been selected, and now you can weigh in on which one will be the winner. So, from the 6 final names listed on your screen that are coming up, they include names like Veterans Park Middle School, Arthur Middle School, or Central Lehigh Middle School. All to rename the formerly Lehigh Acres Middle School that recently went through an $18 million renovation. District leaders want you to vote on a new name. You can go to a survey and submit a vote that will open next Wednesday. The winner selected in August.
It's Black History Month, and in today's Your Healthy Family, I'm taking a closer look at mental health care in minority communities. A 2019 report has some alarming numbers on Black youth suicide, and an outpatient clinician at David Lawrence Centers for Behavioral Health in Immokalee says many don't feel like they see themselves in the people around them. A 2019 report from the Florida Behavioral Health Association ranks Florida 43rd in the nation for access to mental health care. At the same time,
Black youth doubled the numbers of suicides from their white counterparts.
In fact, Sache Caceres with the David Lawrence Centers for Behavioral Health in Immokalee says in the last 30 years,
there's been an increase by 80% in Black youth suicide completion, with virtually no changes with the white community in that same category. So it is something that really begs our attention.
Caceres is an outpatient clinician who treats adults and kids.
Could see up to 10 clients in a day, pretty diverse group of clients between genders and gender identities and also races. I see people in both English and Spanish. I provide therapy services, individual and sometimes families, and I also provide group therapy.
And she says one thing she consistently hears from the young people she treats:
how their own race impacts them and their ability to function within school because they don't see their likeness in the staff or the supports around them, right? Youth are not feeling seen and not feeling understood, and we start feeling like the others and not opening up to, well, is the other party willing to have a conversation with me? And we kind of close ourselves off from that.
She says that's why it's so important for Black and brown children to see people who look like them in their day-to-day lives.
It definitely impacts mental health as a whole.
So she says things like schools, sports leagues, places where young people go frequently really need to focus on representation. For Your Healthy Family, I'm Lisa Greenberg, and for more health stories, head to fox4now.com/yourhealthyfamily.
Well, it is February 23rd, but if you were anywhere outside today, you'd say it felt more like June 23rd because it was hot outside. As you're getting a gorgeous look over the Luminary camera, I am happy to see that the sun is going down, considering how hot it was, Chris.
Yeah, to get back to the baseball for a second, though, for anyone who's going to Red Sox or Twins, get the seats that are in the shade.
Oh,
definitely.
Yeah. Oh,
I think that's definitely like a prerequisite.
Like I said, I could feel how hot that plastic was.
As Katie Walls joins us on this day of records, at least tying that one for Fort Myers.
That's right, 89 degrees today. Also, the hottest day so far in 2023, and tomorrow expected to be even toastier. So regardless of what plans you have going on for Friday into the weekend, this is what we'll be enjoying. Warm temperatures. Be sure to stay hydrated. Live look now at a beautiful setting sun. Unsurprisingly, our neighbors